Hello, I'm Jeff Power, senior writer with RealTime Fantasy Sports. Welcome to the live stream event of our $5,000 draft here at RealTime Fantasy Sports. I'm once again joined by my son, Henry. Thanks so much for coming on, Henry.
Yeah, no problem. It's great experience.
Should be a lot of fun tonight. Like I said, this is a $5,000 draft. These guys, Henry, this is a ton of money. This is, you put up your money to show who the best players are, and this is what these guys are doing right here.
Yeah, it's exactly what they're doing. I mean, they're going to take their guys in this one.
For sure. So it should be interesting to see how a lot of these owners attack this draft. Like I said, it's a lot of money. It should be a lot of fun to watch this tonight. So I think before we get into the draft, it's going to start here in roughly a minute or so. Let's talk about the rules, Henry. I will bring those up real quick for everybody here to let them know how it works. First of all, if you win the league, it's $25,000. Second place is $15,000. Third place is 10. Fourth place is 5, correct?
Yep.
And the roster size, it's standard league, 9 starters, 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, kicker, defense, flex. So nothing too unusual there. And it's going to be a great draft. Like I said, it's going to be fun to see how these owners attack it. Henry, how would you attack a draft of this magnitude when you're playing for this much money?
Well, to be very difficult, but I'd say you got to go with your guys in this one. You got to take the guys that you believe in and you think are going to win you your league, because you may have to reach on them. I mean, but if they're your guys, you got to take them in this.
I said this in one of our recent videos that we did, is ADP, which I have right here on the desk. It's a guide. It's not a true fast ranking. Mm-hmm. If you like a player, you can take them above the ADP. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. So it should be interesting to see. Like you said, these guys are going to want their guys. Let's go over the draft order real quick as well, Henry. So we have, with the first pick is Hey Now. Then we have Shack, Law Dog, End Zone Club, First Place, Casino Blitz, Cocktails and Dreams, LGF Fins, is that Runestone?
Mm-hmm.
Fat Frankie, MAF, and JRH. So throughout the draft as well, we have encouraged the owners to join this stream if they have time. I know it's a lot's on the line, but it'll be good. Hopefully some people will join in and talk about their strategy for the draft. And if anybody has any questions as well, feel free to post them here in the stream. We'll try to answer them throughout the draft and give you any insight we have. If you have any questions about fantasy football in general, or if you want to just talk about the draft as well, more than happy to get your thoughts. Henry, it started. So we already have kind of our first surprise. Christian McCaffrey is normally the first pick. Again, get your guys. Who went first?
Breece Hall.
All right, let's bring it up as well. I should do that so everybody can see it. So here it is. And if you want to follow along at home and you want to bring up the link to the draft board, it's RT Sports /live. So you can bring that up and put that on in conjunction with this stream also if you want to see it. But it's right here, posted here. So we went Breece Hall, Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb. First 3 picks. Hall goes first. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, McCaffrey already beat up a little bit in training camp. And I guess, he's always an injury risk a little bit. He's definitely really, really good when he's healthy. But Breece Hall goes first.
Yeah, I mean, another thing for McCaffrey, I mean, isn't it kind of a curse recently? The guy that's ranked number 1 has never finished number 1 in consecutive year recently. Jefferson finished low last year. Who are the other ones? I think McCaffrey finished low 2 years ago. And It's been a curse kind of recently. If you're ranked number 1, they never haven't really panned out as much as you want them to.
It is. It's almost like the Madden curse. The Madden curse is broken in recent years, I feel like.
Yeah, especially, who was it last year? Did Allen?
Josh Allen.
Yeah, he had a solid year, but.
Yeah, exactly. Wasn't off the chart. Still, it wasn't
nothing like an injury again, yeah.
Exactly. So we have right now the pick: CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Bijan Robinson, Jamar Chase. So you have 3 receivers, 3 running backs. Not a surprise with the 3 running backs. These are the guys that are normally the first 3 off the board. You can get a little differential when it comes to the receiver position. Jamar Chase is the 3rd receiver here. He has an ADP of 8.33. He normally goes after Jefferson on our league. So a little bit actually goes after Amon-Ra as well. So Chase goes a little sooner.
Here goes Jefferson.
There goes Jefferson. I mean, thoughts on Jamar Chase with the holdout situation? You worried about that at all?
I'm not too worried. He still has 2 years under contract. I think they're just going to say play, and then halfway through the season or about that, whenever they figure out what they want to do with T. Higgins, I think then you'll figure out, okay, we're going to pay Chase and go through that process.
I would think they should have an idea of what he deserves to make with CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk signing. So I would think it would get done sooner than later, but you never know with the Bengals.
I think personally you want to sign him now because if he has another fully healthy season of Joe Burrow, he may put up some crazy numbers and demand a little more. So I think I'd probably do that a little sooner than later if I was Cincinnati.
Very true. So we have Jefferson, then Amon-Ra St. Brown, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown. Again, this is pretty chalk this round. Nothing too unusual at this point except for the Breece Hall going first overall. But we've seen other people. I've seen Tyreek Hill go first. I've seen CeeDee Lamb go first. So, again, nothing too unusual here. When you're picking in a draft, Henry, you like being at the top end, bottom, middle? Any preference this year for you?
This year, I've liked mostly being around 5 and 6. I feel like you can get good value. Then you can get maybe one of those top 3 running backs, mostly either Bijan or Breece. And then if you don't, you're either going to get Chase, Jefferson, St. Brown, or Hill. I mean, I loved any of those guys. And then you're in a decent spot in the way back still. Usually in recent years, you don't like to be in the middle, but this year, I love that position a lot.
Yeah, I think I like to be towards the top, like 3 or 4 personally, because I want one of those top 3 running backs. That's the way I like to roll this year. But if not, I like the back end because if you can get Barkley and then maybe even Taylor, I love that pairing if you can do that at the turn. But Barkley went a little sooner here is that Runestone? Nice little dragon pick.
Yes.
So he took Barkley there with the 9th pick in the first round. That's about where he goes. So nothing too unusual at that point. Then A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson as well. If you're picking between A.J. Brown and Wilson, I think that's a debate for some people. Which one are you going with?
Yeah, I had this debate 2 days ago, and I'm going Garrett Wilson. I think he has a higher upside than A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown's in a more crowded offense and a scheme that maybe a little more run heavy. But I think Garrett Wilson's ceiling is super high if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy. If Aaron Rodgers can return to a round, I don't think he'll return to MVP form, but if he can just be a solid quarterback, Garrett Wilson's going to get a ton of looks and fed the ball throughout the season.
What about these reports with Aaron Rodgers and being not a good teammate and all that stuff? Does that worry you at all?
We've heard this before, and what happens in the end, he goes up and puts up numbers. I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned at this stage of the game. Just kind of wondering how that's going to play out in New York because they have some high expectations. It's New York as well. So now we saw Jonathan Taylor. I talked about that. He went with the last pick there in the first round. Let's recap the first round, Henry. It's Breece Hall, McCaffrey, Lamb, Hill, Robinson, Chase, Jefferson, St. Brown, Barkley, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Jonathan Taylor. So nothing too unusual, quite frankly, with this. I think this is where the picks start getting tough because you have some tougher decisions coming up. I mean, you want to take Jahmyr Gibbs going into the season with an injury. Puka Nacua goes around this point as well. He has some question marks with his injury situation. Do you want to go with the rookie, Marvin Harrison Jr.? It gets tougher at this point. These are some make or break picks, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you got to go with the risky players, I feel like, because maybe risky, but there's a high reward if you think they're going to pan out, as we see Jahmyr Gibbs go here. Now, it's Taylor and Gibbs on the end. If Gibbs, I think he's going to get a bigger workload this year, but I do worry about the hamstring thing just a little bit. Yeah. That thing, stuff like that lingers, and he already had it happen last year too. It could linger a little bit, but I mean, maybe early on in the season, it may ease him a little bit, maybe more of a role that he had middle of the season last year, I would assume, and then he gradually works up and up and up.
Very true. Now we see Cooper Kupp. Now, this is the first really kind of surprise pick, I guess. I mean, he has been going towards the end of the second round. Recent drafts, he's really been moving up. His ADP is 32 right now on our site, so that's more of a third round pick. But again, if MAF wants to get Cooper Kupp, he's not going to be able to get him at the end of the third round. He is probably going to go before that. So that's one of his guys, and he went and got him. I think it definitely carries some risk because of his injury situation, but I feel like Cup I've seen a lot more recently going up and up in drafts.
Yeah, because there's a high reward in Cup. We've
Yep.
seen what he does in his healthy years. I think he did Triple Crown, right?
Yep.
2 years ago, I think, or 3. I think it's 2 when they won the Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, he stays healthy. He's one of the best receivers in football, but that healthy part's a very key thing these last couple of years.
Very true. Very true. I like Nakua too. I think he has some question marks as well as Coop, but this Cooper Cup, I think is one of the first drafts I've seen Cup go before Nakua. So interesting to see where he ends up landing. I think recently I was in a draft where Cup and Nakua went on the same team.
I think we were in that one.
We were in that one?
Yeah, we did that together, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
There goes Nakua.
We're talking about him, and then Fat Frankie Inc. Nice name. He needs to get a logo for that. But he goes 2 receivers as well, A.J. Brown, Nakua. So two of the first 3 picks in the second round have doubled up, and the Runestone owner does the same thing. So he has 2 running backs. The last team has 2 running backs, and then the teams picking 10th and 11th have 2 receivers. So all these owners have backed up. I mean, it's a little interesting because you only start 2 receivers in this league, so it's not quite as receiver heavy. So would you rather get 2 running backs, 2 receivers? Do you do both? What's your thoughts?
In this league or more leagues recently, I like to get one of each personally. You got to get a number 1 at both positions, but I'm not opposed to either of these. These are both still great things to do. Like both those duos, Brown and Nakua, Wilson and Cup, and then Taylor and Gibbs and Barkley and Henry. You are stacked at those positions now, and now you can go and get these. Probably have some later round guys they like for those positions, and that's what I double up now. So for wide receiver, they probably have some later rounds, and for running back, they probably have some.
We've seen that you can win with any strategy as well, because I think there's value to be had in rounds 5, 6 with running backs. Carry some risk, but I think you can find some number 1s in those positions, in my opinion. Same thing with receiver. I think you can find some number 1 receivers that could emerge in that 5, 6 round range. So it would be interesting to see what these teams do here. Travis Etienne goes there with the 5th pick in the second round after Derrick Henry. To me, Etienne's like the safest number 1 out there. I think. Like I look at him and I have no concerns. I just think he's going to get a lot of work. He's not flashy. His numbers aren't going to be off the charts, but he's going to be steady.
Yeah, he's going to get the job done. We saw last year he was sneaky, like the running back 3, I think. No one really talked about him at all anyway. Everyone talked about McCaffrey, Mostert, A-Chain, all those guys. No one talked about Etienne and how good of a year he had. I mean, he was a great running back, and now this year he's a later middle second round pick.
Yeah, he usually goes there at the end of at the beginning of the second, middle of the second, around that range. But like you said, so steady, gets his catches. I'm not worried about Tank Bigsby taking work as well. So I love Etienne this year as a number 1 back. Again, not very exciting, but just really, really steady. Marvin Harrison goes after him. That's your guy. You absolutely love Harrison this year.
A lot of shares of him.
You like him at this spot of the draft?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't even think you're drafting at your ceiling at this point. We've seen some seasons these rookie wide receivers have put up recently. It's more recently you've seen rookie wide receivers take off in the NFL. Like we've seen Jamar Chase, we've seen Nakua. If they get with that quarterback and they can find a connection early on, it's going to be huge. And especially like Nakua sliding that role quickly because Kupp was injured and they needed number 1. Bengals didn't have a number 1. Chase slid in. And now Harrison slots in as one of the greatest wide receiver prospects of all time. And now he's going into an offense where all they have is Trey McBride. They trade away Rondale Moore. They have no receivers. We saw the numbers DeAndre Hopkins put up with Kyler Murray. Now you're probably slotting in Marvin Harrison. You could be an even better wide receiver. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity there.
I agree. Cocktails and Dream takes him at this point. He is one of the – I know who this is. His name's not on there, but he's one of the best all-time fantasy owners, in my opinion. Just a great, great owner. Wins a ton of leagues. I'm always interested to see who he takes. And it makes me feel good because I have some shares of Harrison as well. I just took him in an auction league that I was in, and I'm happy to see that Cocktails and Dream took him because it makes me feel pretty good about my pick. He goes back-to-back receivers, Justin Jefferson, Marvin Harrison.
I like that duo.
And then Kyron Williams goes off the board here. Another back some people have some concerns about. I mean, you hear the reports now he's returning punts. What does that mean? We know Sean McVay has a history, maybe a little bit of, bailing on his number one back and giving other people a chance. You have concerns about Williams?
I do a little bit. I do think it's a little worrisome. And then they signed, Rams signed Cody Schrader. I know he's not going to have an impact, but
Cody Schrader.
I mean, all the backs in their room are similar types of backs. So I feel like if Sean McVay, he's not insanely worried because he thinks another player, one of them could just slot him and replace him. So they think Kyron's the best at kick return. Well, that's fine. We have Blake Corum still. He's around this. They think it's gonna be the same build. I think he's definitely gonna eat into the workload a lot this year. I do worry about that. I mean, I don't know why you don't draft a great running back prospect and one of the best college running backs you've seen in a long time.
It's true.
With having Kyron
not
play him.
Exactly. You gotta wonder about that. And Chris Olave goes, and then Devontae Adams. Olave, that's a tad sooner than he normally goes. What's his ADP here?
Like end of second, I would assume.
End of second round. Some good 27.83. So
about that.
A hair sooner than he normally goes. Chris Olave. I think him or Drake London are guys that are similar, go in similar spots. If you're having to pick between those two, who'd you go with?
I'm going London. I mean, I think it's in a way better of an offense. There's more scoring opportunities. They're going to do more. With Olave, I just worry about it's Derek Carr. They got a new offensive coordinator. That's cool. It's Derek Carr. Their offensive line did not look good at all in preseason. Derek Carr's still back there. I know he's the number one guy, but he was just, I don't know what he was last year. The wide receiver 19?
Yeah.
I think he was around that.
Fairly ho-hum.
And now he's going around this spot. I think I'd rather have Adams and London over him at this spot.
Yeah, Adams is another guy that's kind of polarizing a little bit. I think some people have concerns about him, but I actually think Gardner Minshew starting is not a bad thing for him. I mean, he's got a history of targeting number one receiver.
Another thing with Adams, he's proved year after year, he's QB proof.
Yeah.
He's going to put up numbers no matter who's throwing in the football. One of the best receivers in the National Football League. I mean, he's going to put up numbers. I mean, there were some weeks last year where he was down. Then the next week came out and put up 30+. I'm not worried at all about Devontae, especially with what we saw what Pittman did, how many targets and catches he got with Minshew. He's probably just going to feed Adams the ball in this offense.
That's true compared to what they have to work with as well. I mean, Brock Bowers is there now, and Jacoby Myers isn't a bad receiver as well. But Adams is definitely the number one guy. Drake London went after him. Then Josh Allen, our first QB off the board in the second round. That's a tad sooner. 33 is his ADP on our site. So you wonder if the Shake Shack team, is that what his name is? Shake Shack.
Yeah.
You like Shake Shack? Maybe that's the owner of Shake Shack.
Okay.
But he goes there. Second pick the 11th pick in round 2 goes Josh Allen. You have to wonder if he might have been there when he picked in round 3. So I don't know if I would have went that way personally, but I can understand you want the number one QB if you think
Let's make sure you got him.
Yeah, make sure you got him. Anxious to see what he does here. He might go a receiver with this pick. A-Chain went after him to Haynow. So Haynow went 3 straight running backs. Breece Hall, A-Chain, and Josh Jacobs. So you start 2 running backs in a flex spot. I love Josh Jacobs. I feel like he's really undervalued.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yes, he didn't have the best year last year, but he's going to a way better situation. The Green Bay offense is they're the youngest team in football, and they just almost beat the 49ers in the NFC divisional round. I mean, you got to love the future of that team. Jordan Love's just going to keep getting better. The offense is just going to keep getting better and better. It doesn't seem like there's much to compete behind them. Lloyd's hurt already, and A.J. Dillon's out for the year. It doesn't seem like there's much behind them. Don't think maybe looking at vulture any big workload for him. So you should see a ton of catches and a good amount of workload at the goal line.
If you're just joining us, I'm Jeff Power. This is Henry Power, my son. We're live streaming our high-stakes draft, the biggest of big high-stake drafts on our site, $5,000 per owner. We're having a lot of fun talking about it. Big grand prize. We have a 95% payout in this league as well, and it is $25,000 to the winner. So it's the ultimate high-stakes draft, and I appreciate everybody coming on and watching today. Hopefully we get some of these owners come on and talk to us as well about their picks. We've opened an invitation to them, and hopefully they take advantage of that. We're through 2.5 rounds about of the draft at this point. Again, we're 9 roster spots, 1 running back, 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, tight end, flex, kicker, and defense. So it's your standard league. The draft is 20 rounds, I believe. Is that 18 rounds. So we have 9 bench spots as well. Be anxious to see how these people attack their bench. Some of these owners may not take a second QB, may not take a second tight end. You never know.
Yeah.
They may want to load up on getting the skill players on their team. So be anxious to see how that works. And here's the start of the 3rd round. We have Josh Jacobs, Mike Evans, Isaiah Pacheco, Deebo Samuel. So we have 2 teams actually that have the same at the one position. So we have Breece Hall and Shane Jacobs to team 1. The 4th team, the End Zone Club, has Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, and Deebo Samuel. So that's a pretty good trio of receivers there.
Yeah, I do like
for that team. I like Deebo Samuel a lot this year. I know some people are kind of worried now. Brandon Ayuk just signed that big contract, so he's back in camp. But Samuel does so much stuff. Even if his numbers aren't crazy, like the receptions, he's still going to get some rushing yards. He's going to get some rushing touchdowns. He's going to get red zone targets. He's a big, strong receiver, good in the red zone. So I like Samuel still. I think he's a good low-end number 1 fantasy receiver, and I still expect good things from him this year.
Yeah, another thing with him, too, we know McCaffrey's been up already. They could see some more running plays like we did a couple of years ago with Deebo, which that was a big part of his game when he was at stud 2 years ago, I think that was. Yeah, if he can go back and get more of those touches, along with already getting a ton of work, I mean, he's going to be great. I'm anxious to see where Ayuk goes here.
Yeah, I am too. After he signed, I mean, he's finally back in practice now. Didn't get in any preseason games, but it's still a week. We're, I guess,
we're basically a week away.
Basically a week away from the start of the NFL season. So I think he'll be fine. I'm not too worried about him, getting hurt or something. I know some people worry when you sit out like that, you're going to get a hamstring injury. Let's talk about Mike Evans. He went there at the beginning of the 2nd round. He's one guy that I guess I'm a little sour on. I just worry about him. I know he's so steady. He's great in the red zone, but he's 31 years old. I feel like a letdown's coming at some point. I don't have many shares of him. You still like him?
We say this every year about Mike Evans, I feel like, and he keeps going at the same spot. We keep saying he's going to have a letdown. He's going to fall off. We thought last year was going to be terrible with no Baker Mayfield. He went super late. I mean, but now look, I mean, last year had another great year with Baker Mayfield. He has a chance to, I think, break the record for most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons this year. He's not going to slow down this year. This would be a year
I think the same thing with Travis Kelce at times. I feel like he's going to slow down at some point. He just keeps chugging along. I thought last year he might, but he did kind of show signs, Kelce, a little bit of slowing down late in the year.
He did, but I feel like another thing what they did, like, don't think they had a insane workload for him because they wanted him for the playoffs. Yeah. And we saw what Kansas City did with him in the playoffs. They obviously won the Super Bowl, so, I mean.
He did something right.
Yeah.
So Nico Collins goes after Deebo, then James Cook, Rashad White, Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker. We have 4 straight running backs off the board. I think all these guys have good potential.
5 straight now.
5 straight. Joe Mixon. I mean, all those guys are going in the spots they normally go. If you had to take one out of that group of 5, Cook, White, Kamara, Walker, Mixon, who you nabbing?
Man, I'm between 2 here, and that's Cook and Walker. I'm going to go James Cook. Looking at Cook, the second half of the year, I think he was top 10 most of that second half once they switched offensive coordinators. And he was great. He got most of the touches. They ran the ball more. He looked more explosive once they gave him the ball. And now this year, there's going to be hundreds of plus targets going all over the place in Buffalo with no more Stephon Diggs. I feel like
Davis
he gets more of a receiving game. And then you also have to factor in, I would think they use him more in the goal line, more in the red zone more. We saw last year he didn't get a lot of that except Tavius Murray. Now he's gone. They drafted Ray Davis, who could get a little bit of that workload, but in the preseason, it was all James Cook every play. So I'm thinking James Cook's good prime for a huge year.
My only thing that worries me about him is you talked about the red zone and
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen vulturing those touchdowns around the end zone. He's so good running the ball, so good at scoring touchdowns in the red zone. That's the only thing that scares me and might hold him back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I like Cook. I think he's set up for a big year. I like all 5 of those running backs. I would be okay with any of them. Even Pacheco, he went in the beginning there of the 3rd round. I think they're all fine picks. And it's a reason maybe you can wait on a running back if you want to go receiver to start your draft, with which a couple of these guys did. Like the Fat Frankie team went A.J. Brown, Puka Nacua, and then Joe Mixon. So he could still have a solid number 1 running backs despite taking two receivers to start his draft. So we see Travis Kelce go. He's actually the first tight end ahead of Sam Laporta. That's always kind of the debate. Laporta usually goes he's just 1 pick ahead of him at this point. Laporta's ADP is 33.02. Travis Kelce's 35.67. So it's a toss-up who goes first at tight end. This draft, Travis Kelce, maybe they heard us talking about him and how he never slows down.
Yeah, I mean, it's Travis Kelce. I mean, I think people may be a little – I've seen Kelce go a lot more. I think people are a little worried it seems about Laporta. I mean, he's already banged up, I think, right now. But, I mean, he did kind of come out of nowhere last year, but he's another one of those Iowa tight ends. They seem to always produce no matter what. I mean,
it's true.
All these new guys coming out, they're all Iowa. Kittle. I mean, it seems like they always great tight ends going to university.
Correct. And DK Metcalf goes at the end of the 3rd round. So let's recap that round, the entire round, Henry. Josh Jacobs, Mike Evans, Isaiah Pacheco, Deebo Samuel, Nico Collins, James Cook, Rashad White, Alvin Kamara, Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon. So that is 6 running backs, right? 6?
Yeah.
No, 7. 7 of the 12 picks were running backs in the 3rd round. So a lot of these, I guess I would consider them low-end number 1, high-end number 2 running backs are going at this point. So now we see, let's talk about the last team. JRH 5K.
Yep.
So Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, then DK Metcalf, and Devontae Smith. So he went running back, backed it up with 2 straight receivers, DK and Devontae. You think he's
he's sitting great right now. He has 2, I think, could be high-end RB1s. And you got 2 great receivers still. Metcalf, I think, is a great value pick. New offensive coordinator, going to be a brand new offense. I think they're going to do a lot of creative things. I think it's Washington's offensive coordinator, correct? He was from the university.
University of Washington.
Yeah, they threw the ball. It was a complete air raid in that offense. Michael Penix is throwing it up all the time. Roma Dunze. They had that one guy. It seemed like they'd always had those big catches, and they had a little smaller guy that's going to get all the slot catches, which looks like going to be
Jackson Smith.
But I think DK could have a huge year in a new offense under him.
I'm excited to see that Seattle offense. I think it could be really good. Like you mentioned, there's tons of motion in the preseason that they're moving guys all around, trying to get those matchups similar to what Mike McDaniels does in Miami and Sean McVay. So
we've seen all how that works. And in San Francisco, we've seen what those offenses do year after year, it seems like.
It's a copycat league.
Yep.
And teams are going to copy that. So I'm anxious to see Seattle and their offense. I'm good with Metcalf. I think he could have a big season and out produce that ADP. Devontae Smith, too.
Yeah.
He kind of reminds me of Chris Godwin a little bit. You know, racks up the catches, doesn't always score a lot. People kind of don't get too excited about him, but I still like him. I think he's a steady receiver and a great offense.
Well, everyone wants those big play guys. They don't care about the guys that are just going to get 6 catches for 70 yards or something like that, but that's still producing great numbers. You do that every week.
It helps fantasy teams when you have a really high floor, and that's what Devontae Smith has. So he goes, and then his former teammate, DeAndre Swift, James Conner, Jalen Hurts, Jalen Waddle, Malik Neighbors. I mean, the running backs are kind of getting thin, kind of the safer options. So we kind of see some people that Swift and Conner have some. I feel like some people think they have some question marks, but Swift's actually the first back for the MAF team. So that's his number 1 back at this point. I think he has potential. They paid him a ton of money. He's in possibly a really good offense. So I think he has a high upside.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, looking at Chicago, we know Chicago's history of quarterbacks, but I think Caleb's going to change the tide there. And now you had 3 great receivers already in Dunze, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore, and you had DeAndre Swift. Your O-line's not pretty middle of the pack, I'm pretty sure, in the NFL, but it could be an unbelievable offense. And you're in a good offense. That's basically what you need for fantasy.
For
Most of
fantasy
the
running
time,
backs, you get
you
goal line
goal
carries, all
line.
that stuff.
Yep.
And backs on good teams. It's just like kickers. You want to get players who play on good teams, in my opinion.
Yep.
It's good to maybe target some receivers on bad teams that are going to be playing from behind, especially when you're looking for bench spots. But for the most part, you want to get those guys on good teams and good offenses and have a potential to produce big. So we see Sam Laporta go now. He is the second tight end, goes after Kelsey. So that's he's the 8th pick in the 4th round. So it's kind of towards the end of the 4th round. We have our second tight end off the board. Michael Pittman went after Neighbors. Neighbors goes ahead of Michael Pittman. I think he scares me. I love the talent, but Daniel Jones is his QB. That's my issue. Marvin Harrison has Kyler Murray. That's the difference.
Yeah, and Cocktail's one of both of them. He took Harrison and Neighbors, so he's all in on the rookies, and I don't mind it at all. I mean, like I said earlier with the rookie wide receivers, they seem either way. He's the only guy in that offense. Neighbors, he's gonna get a ton of targets, and then in the preseason, I think he was only one over like 50 yards. So, and he had a ton of targets. They seem to give him some screens to try to get him the ball to where he can do stuff in space. And I think they're going to be playing from behind the Giants. It seems like a pretty known thing. So they're going to have to throw the ball. There's going to be the guy that's going to have to catch the ball. Malik Neighbors is that guy.
I like Michael Pittman this year. He went after Neighbors. I think some people, for whatever reason, are really down on him. They don't think he's going to be able to produce like he has in the past. But I think it's a good thing that Anthony Richardson's back. He goes from Gardner Minshew to Anthony Richardson. I mean, he's had QB issues the last couple seasons and still produced big. I think Richardson's his best option that he's played with. So I don't think it's going to be a downer that he's with him. So I'm still all in on Pittman.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Colts offense, it's going to get better under him. Shane Steichen is a great head coach. He's a great offensive coordinator. Philly's offense year they went to the Super Bowl was just one of the best in the league with him on our offensive coordinator. And now he has Richardson, who can do kind of the similar stuff with Hurts. Maybe he has even a better arm than Hurts. And he can run a similar offense what he did. And with that, you see A.J. Brown and Pittman kind of going to take that role of what he did with them. Pittman's going to catch a bunch of passes. I think it's going to be a better offense. I think Colts are a great team.
I think people worry about Richardson's accuracy. I think that's a big thing. He was inaccurate in college, showed some signs of that as well in his short time in the NFL. But I still think he's just a really good player, and I'm not too worried about Pittman. I think he's going to produce big. We see 3 QBs go off the board in this round. In the 4th round, Henry Hurts was the second QB picked in the draft, and Lamar Jackson goes ahead of Patrick Mahomes. How are you ranking those 3?
I go Hurts 1, that's for sure. I mean, I think Hurts, I almost have him above Allen at this point, just because of the fact that the offense is so much better, I feel like, in Philadelphia. And they're still going to run the tush push, so you're going to see a bunch of rushing touchdowns out of Hurts again. I just like he's in a better situation. So I'd probably go Hurts. Then I'd probably go Mahomes, then Jackson. I know Jackson has the rushing upside, but it's Mahomes, and you have to factor in they just added Marquise Brown and Xavier Worthy. I think they're going to use Xavier Worthy. They're going to try to use him as a guy that just is in Miami right now that's putting up amazing numbers. I mean, we've seen how fast he is. He ran the fastest 40 time of all time. So I think Xavier Worthy and Mahomes, I feel like they're going to try to create something there. We saw some big plays they put up in the preseason. Mahomes is it's just Mahomes. You never can doubt him.
It's hard to bet against him. His numbers actually weren't great last year at times, though, for fantasy owners, unfortunately. I think maybe that is why maybe it's soured some people, but you're right. It's so hard to bet against him. He's such a good player. I love Jack. I don't think you can make a case for any of those guys as the second QB. You can make a case for any of those guys being the first QB. Even I don't have a problem if you don't take Allen first and you want to go Hurts.
Yeah.
I think Allen has a couple question marks because of his surrounding cast there in Buffalo, but his rushing ability really kind of helps him.
I think Hurts probably has the highest floor out of any of them if I had to go with it, just because we don't know what Allen's going to do weekly basis. We know he loves to turn the ball over, it seems like, but he'll make up for his rushing touchdowns. But I think Hurts is just so consistent. He's going to get you 20 points weekly basis.
So we have Laporta, then Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, DJ Moore, and Rashee Rice to round out the fourth round. I guess the only thing, Rashee Rice, he's flying up draft boards at this point. His ADP is 56.25 on our site. So he goes at the end of the fourth round. So that means he's the 48th pick. So he went very similar to where he normally goes in our ADP, just a few picks after that. I think he's one of those boomer bust picks personally. Rashee Rice has some question marks because of the off the field stuff. He still may get suspended. Who knows if he will, but are you comfortable taking him?
I would like to say I am, because his court case, which they said they're basing the suspension off of, is December 6th, I want to say. So if they do it in the season, it's your fantasy playoffs. So that's the only thing I worry about. But I also think it's the end of the year. They might just hold it off to the next season.
It's true.
So I do think Rashee Rice, I would like to say he's decently safe. I mean, the last, I think, 6 weeks of the season, he averaged 18 fantasy points a game. I mean, that's a wide receiver one right there, and he's getting them in the fourth round. I know they added more, but he already has a connection built with Mahomes. They won the Super Bowl together. He's going to have to build connection to these others too, which I do think they're going to slot in well. But I think Rice is the most safe receiver in that offense, and I think he's going to get the most looks still.
So he's actually the first receiver taken by Haynow. He went Hall at Chain, Josh Jacobs, and he went Rashee Rice. And he took a tight end, Trey McBride, high upside tight end. I like the McBride pick personally. It scares me a little bit. He doesn't have a number 2 receiver yet, but my guess is he loads up on receivers in around 6, 7, 8. Probably won't take a QB until a little later.
Yeah.
That's what I would probably do if I was him. But again, pretty good start to the draft for the team picking out of the first slot there. He's going to need Rice to be his number 1 receiver, though. I think that's the one boomer bust pick there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And another thing, McBride, I mean, I love to get one of these 2 tight ends that have gone in this round right here, round 5. McBride and Andrews. I love both of them. Andrews is a guy that I feel like people are a little down on just because he was injured.
I don't get it.
I mean, he's been top 3 basically every year in fantasy-wise when he's healthy, and nothing's changed really in that offense. He's just going to be healthy. I mean, with him healthy, I mean, we've seen the numbers he produces. He's a great fantasy tight end and a great player.
Yep, he goes, and then Kincaid. So 3 tight ends in round 5. Aaron Jones goes as well. Brandon Ayuk, Stephon Diggs. Also a couple receivers there. Ayuk, you were asking where he might go. So he goes in the beginning of round 5. That's similar to where he normally goes, I think. Actually, I think he normally goes a little sooner than that. Let's look at the ADP. 45.76 is ADP, so we went a little later. So the Shake Shack team went running back, QB, and then he took 3 straight receivers, Evans, DJ Moore, and Ayuk. I actually think that trio of receivers is pretty good. I know I kind of downplayed Evans earlier, but still, I like Moore a lot. I think Ayuk has huge ceiling as well, so I think he's done pretty well at attacking that position after not going after it the first 2 picks.
Yeah, I think he's done great with that. I'm interested to see what he does as running back after this. And
he already McCaffrey, he gets his solid, great number 1. He's probably thinking he feels great about that, so maybe he'll wait on that and try to find a wild card number 2 back and maybe around 7, 8, 9, maybe get a couple of them. He's going to obviously go with a receiver at his flex spot at that point. So Aaron Jones goes in round 5. David Montgomery, 2 running backs from the NFC North. Go in the same round. Aaron Jones and Montgomery. I feel like those backs are kind of similar in similar situations. I think Jones is going to end up maybe splitting more work than people might be thinking, but I don't think that's a bad thing for him because he performed well when he did that with A.J. Dillon. Same thing with Montgomery, splitting work with Jahmyr Gibbs. So that's why these guys fall a little bit farther, but I still think they definitely have good value as number 2 backs. I'm good with both of them as my number 2 back.
Yeah, another thing about Montgomery, I think he's a super safe pick. It seemed like last year, no matter what situation they were in, he got the goal line work.
It's true.
Every time. I mean, I'd be all in on Montgomery.
Yeah, especially if you can get him at that point. I feel like maybe people are sleeping on him a little bit. He had a great year last year. Another tight end goes off the board, Kyle Pitts. So you
got the run of tight ends. Fourth round.
Tight end this round. Kyle Pitts goes to the LFG Fins team. So he has St. Brown, ETN, Kamara, Waddle, and Pitts. I actually really like that team to start his draft. Pitts definitely one of those boomer bust picks. But if you want to win a league like this, I think I'm good with maybe taking a little bit of chance on a
It's
guy
been
like that.
been a boomer bust pick for the last 3 years.
That he has.
Everyone's fallen in that hole of him just going to be that guy. But if it's going to be any year for him, it's this year. He's got Kirk Cousins, going to be a better offense. He's got the Rams QB coach, I think, is their offensive coordinator. And we've seen what all those guys have done under those trees. Like we saw McVay with the Shanahan tree, and then he's coming from McVay. I think all those guys that come from those trees, they always seem to succeed. D'Amico Ryans last year, they all seem to do something that's creative with their offenses, and it always seems to work out. I'm excited to see that offense this year. I think it's going to work out.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Atlanta as well. I just hope that Kirk Cousins is healthy and ready to go. I think that's kind of the big thing.
And even if he isn't, you got Michael Penix, who drafted 7th overall.
But I like him as a player, fantasy player, more so than I do as helping his teammates around him. I think Cousins is the better asset for fantasy players for his teammates. So that's the main reason I'd like him to start. Just saw what he did in Minnesota and helped all those players produce such huge fantasy seasons. So we have Pitts, Tank Dell, George Pickens, Tony Pollard, Terry McLaurin. So Tank Dell goes before 2 number 1 receivers on their teams, and Pickens and McLaurin. So those are 2 guys coming from offenses that might not be outstanding, at least Pittsburgh. I think Washington has some potential there with Jaden Daniels, but Tank Dell, huge ceiling on a weekly basis, but definitely I think he could end up being one of those boomer bust guys throughout the year, competing with Diggs. And
my only thing with Tank Dell is when he was healthy, you saw that he had boomer bust games last year, but he still had a decent floor. Like, it wasn't like it was like 2 catches. Like, he still had good weeks. I'm very high on Dell this year. I know everyone loves Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins, but I love where Tank Dell's going in this round of the draft. I mean, the Texans' offense is legit. We saw it last year. Tank Dell was that big deep play threat, and they used him a lot in that situation. So I would like to see Tank Dell. I think he's going to be great again.
And then Terry McLaurin goes with the last pick in the 5th round. McLaurin, I think he's a little undervalued. He just produces. And now he has Jaden Daniels as a QB, which I think is a big positive. I didn't like what that last team has done with his roster. He went 2 straight running backs to start at the end. Then he went Metcalf, Devonta Smith, Terry McLaurin, Amari Cooper. You can only play 1 flex and 2 receivers. So one of those receivers is sitting, but he's got 4 really quality options he's going to be choosing from on a weekly basis. It could make picking tough, but I think that's pretty solid receiving core he has there.
Yeah, I think with the McLaurin and Cooper, he probably loves both of them, and he thinks both of them could be, I guess, around the same. I guess he wants one to be better than the other, but he couldn't decide. Maybe just took both of them.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I think definitely some good talent there with those picks. Amari Cooper, I think, is going to be dependent on just Sean Watson. I think that carries some risk. But again, he's so steady, Amari Cooper. So I think he's a good, steady receiver. Now we have another 2 tight ends go, and Evan Ingram and George Kittle. So a lot of teams have tight ends. Let's look. There's just 1, 2, 4 teams don't have a tight end. So there's 8 tight ends off the board, 4 teams still looking for a tight end. So that's a little sooner than you normally see, I think, of the tight end position. So they've been attacking it early. So some of these teams are going to have to get some of these secondary options. A lot of them like to maybe take them similar, like if they take 2 guys in the 9th, 10th round, take them back-to-back picks, and then choose from them, stream them on a weekly basis. So let's reset a little bit, Henry, in case people are just joining us right now. Again, we're live streaming the high-stakes draft, the $5,000 high-stake draft. We call it the Syndicate. That's our name. We name this league. So it's $5,000, $25,000 to the winner, 12-team league, 9 starters, 18 roster spots. Start a QB, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, flex, tight end. Did I say tight end already? I might have. Kicker, defense. So that's starting lineup. It's your standard league, PPR scoring. I don't even know if I've mentioned that, but that's pretty much what every league is these days. So it's a standard PPR league, $25,000 to the winner. We pay 95% payout on this league. So just a lot of fun, huge high stake draft. Great to see what these owners are doing during these drafts to prepare for your draft. I think it's a great tool to use to see what some high-stake owners are doing in their draft. And if you want to get in any league on our site, we have all sorts of great contests. Our fantasy championship getting close to being sold out. I'd sign up for that sooner than later. It's a great contest, $500,000. We have our best ball games. We have our RealTime Fantasy Sports Championship. I think that might be sold out, though, unfortunately. If it's not, it's really close to selling out. But we have all sorts of great contests. You can get in other secondary leagues as well. We have All-American leagues. We have best ball leagues. You can do them for just $10. We have just TD leagues as well. So all different options. Go to rtsports.com, click on that Money League link. You can see everything we have to offer on there. And also, don't forget to use our site as a hosting commissioner service. We do a great job there, especially for all of you in those leagues where you return every season. We have a great format for that. You can trade draft picks, do all sorts of scoring as well. So again, give us a shot here, RealTime Fantasy Sports, for all your fantasy needs. All right, Henry, let's talk about some of the picks that just went. We said to go back to the start of that 6th round, it was Amari Cooper, then Raheem Mostert, Evan Ingram, George Kittle, T. Higgins, Javonte Williams, Christian Kirk, Zay Flowers, Ramondre Stevenson. I like the value of a lot of those players in this round. I mean, T. Higgins, really solid receiver. I think Christian Kirk is a guy I might be higher on than most, but I think he's just set up for a huge year as the number 1 receiver in Jacksonville. So that Casino Blitz team has taken 2 of the players I like a lot this year, maybe more than most, and Michael Pittman and Christian Kirk. And when he took Kincaid, too, that's another one of my guys. So he has 3 of my players that I really like a lot. So kudos to Casino Blitz. He's probably been reading my stuff, don't you think?
Yeah, probably.
And then Ramondre Stevenson went as well after Zay Flowers. I think that Stevenson pick is enough. His first running back is actually pretty solid to get him that late. Again, you don't like the offense, but you like the situation.
Yeah, he's going to get a bunch of passes out of backfield. I would assume Jacoby Brissett at QB. And I'm assuming a couple weeks in, they're going to see Brissett not really doing anything, and they're going to throw May in there. And, rookie QBs, they're going to run the ball, dump it off when they get frantic.
Tight end, running back, I think they have good potential when they're in a situation like that with Drake May. I think both those situations look good for him. For Stevenson, personally, I think he's got a chance for a really good year. He's kind of rejuvenated. They signed him to a big extension this offseason, and he's their number 1 guy, and we know he has the potential to produce big. So I like that pick as his number 1 back. I think it's risky what he did, going 5 straight rounds without a running back, but I think it worked out because he got Stevenson. I would guess he's going to take another running back on the way back. So it'll be interesting to see what's left for him there. It would have been nice if he would have got Zamir White. I think that would have been a good pick, but he just went to the Shake Shack team. He has
the second running back.
Yeah, Zamir White is the second running back to pair with McCaffrey. I think that's pretty solid.
Yeah, and then he has Evans, Moore, Ayuk, and Allen.
Yeah, so gave him a little bit of a hard time for taking Allen at the end of the second round.
Shaped out well.
I think it definitely worked out well for him. So he has the number 1 QB on most boards and the number 1 running back. And then he has 3 pretty solid receivers. And then Zamir White as his second back. So I think that was a pretty good roster composition for the Shake Shack team. So good work to him there. And again, if any of the owners out there of this league want to come on the stream and talk to us here, we're going to be on for probably another 15 minutes or so before we get out of here, Henry. It's about 8:15 Central Time, 9:15 Eastern Time. So we're going to stream for about an hour here on the channel, and then we'll get out of here and let everybody get to their drafts. But hopefully maybe one of these owners comes on and wants to talk to us. I know it's tough to do that during the middle of the draft, so can't blame them if they don't want to come on. But when we've done these in the past, some of them have reached out, come on, which is a lot of fun. A couple more of my guys just went. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Absolutely love him this year. He went around 7. I just think that's great value. The Haynow team went really running back heavy early, but he got Jackson Smith and Jigba, Rashee Rice, guys with high upside, young players. I think I could see Jackson Smith and Jigba getting 100-plus catches this year. I really could.
Yeah, he's going to play the slot, and I think he's going to slot into that Tyler Lockett role. I hate to say it. I think he's finally slowing down. We all love Tyler Lockett, but
he's been so steady, but he showed signs last year finally.
Yeah, and I think that Jigba's going to take that role. He also wanted Xavier Worthy here. So he has Rice and Worthy. So his receivers are Rice, Worthy, and the Jigba, which I think are all very high upside picks. I think he's going for it after getting 3 very solid and good running backs and a very good tight end. He just went for upside, and I don't blame him in that scenario.
You can see why these owners are in this league. I mean, we've questioned a couple things that they've done and said maybe we might not do that. But in the end, their rosters for some of these owners that we've said that still looking pretty good. So obviously they have a plan to attack this certain way, and I'm sure they've done a lot of drafts. So to get ready for a league of this magnitude, $5,000 per team. So they've definitely done their homework, a lot of these teams, and it shows for sure. So Jackson Smith and Jigbo went at the start of round 7. Then Calvin Ridley and Jonathan Brooks. Brooks a little bit of a polarizing figure because he's going to start the year in the PUP list, miss at least the first 4 games. I think there was some hope he might be ready. I think he's farther along than Nick Chubb.
So, I worry about him.
Yeah, I would feel more comfortable taking him, Brooks, than Chubb. So the Brooks pick, that's his number 3 running back. So at this point, he's going to start Lamb and Drake London at receiver, Stephon Diggs as flex, then Pacheco and Harris as his running backs, and Mahomes as QB. So it's not bad. If Brooks comes back and has a great second half of the year, you could slot him in over Harris, who might not be have as high of a ceiling, in my opinion, in that offense. But
yeah, I think Brooks is going to take the approach. And I don't think he's going to be as good, but he's trying to take that Breece Hall approach of last year, where he's going to slowly each week get more and more and more touches till he's evolved into elite back. And it seems like they don't want to pressure him a ton come after this injury, because I do think they think he's their franchise back. It seems like they drafted with a high pick. He was the first running back off the board in the NFL draft this year. He's got a lot of high upside. He probably would have gone higher if he didn't tear his ACL, I'd assume, maybe later first round, but it held him back a little bit. So I think he's a great running back. He was great at Texas. I think he's going to be a great player in the NFL. I just think it's going to take him some time to do so.
I agree. I'm fine getting him at that point in the draft because he's already got a good starting core to his team. He already has his basically starting lineup filled out except for his tight end. Then Chris Godwin goes. That's another one of my guys. I'm all in on Godwin this year. I just think he's undervalued because he scored just 2 touchdowns last year. So I think that he has a lot of potential. Just if he gets 5 scores, he vaults up. I think he was 19th in scoring last year, despite scoring just twice. So if he gets 5 touchdowns, that's 21 more points or 18 more points than not 21. He's not kicking the extra point, but he gets 18 more points, and he probably moves up a few spots in the ranking. So I think getting Godwin, that's his number 4 receiver for the End Zone Club. Again, another team that waited. I thought maybe he might take a running back at this point, but he went another receiver. So he's going to have some flex consideration there on a weekly basis with Hill, Adams, Samuel, and Godwin. That's going to be some tough choices from week to week, but he's loaded at receiver. I think he has probably the best receiving core of any of these teams at this point of the draft.
Yeah, I agree. And another one of my favorite picks went before him this year. I think it's great value in Calvin Ridley. I feel like an offense that just got taken over by a head coach from Cincinnati who loved that number 1 guy. I don't think you pay Calvin Ridley $20+ million a year to not be your number 1 guy. And getting him this late in offense where I think people are doubting the Titans a lot this year. Will Levis had some big games last year with that offense. And all he had was DeAndre Hopkins, and he had Derrick Henry, but they improved their offensive line. They drafted J.C. Latham and signed Lloyd Cushenberry at a free agency. They did, and they added Tony Pollard, and I think that's a great pickup in general. And another one of my favorite picks went right now, Deontay Johnson. Carolina, I mean, someone's got to catch the ball. And
True.
With
they've looked better. I think Bryce Young could take some steps forward, getting some more talent. Those receivers got no separation last year. So.
Yeah, another thing with Canales, he seemed to unlock, who's the new head coach of Carolina, he seemed to unlock Baker Mayfield last year and do what they did plays that worked to his play style, which is what Carolina didn't do last year. And we saw a lot of what he did in the preseason was what he's good at in college, just play action rollouts and play action in general. He loved the rollout. If you can set up plays where you can roll outside the pocket and do what he does best, which is improvising and doing all that kind of stuff, with a better offensive line, which was the main thing, they added 2 great interior guards, the best in free agency. He signed a ton of money. So you got to go out there and protect that quarterback. And I think with him, it's going to be big. I think Carolina, their offense may be good. They're going to be playing from behind because their defense is skeptical. So they're going to throw the ball. I think their offense could put up some decent points. People are a little low on that offense.
There's a lot of teams. What round are we in? It's round 7. So there are 1, 2,
what do you count for?
3, 4 teams with 4 receivers after 7 rounds.
Wow.
And you can only start 2 and then flex.
So you're starting basically
one of
3.
These receivers for these, did I say 4 teams?
Yep.
4 teams have 4 receivers. So, man, loading up on those safe receivers, it's going to make for some tough weekly decisions, but kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, I think people are looking for that one guy that jumps out, that has a huge year. So they're going to take these guys because the receivers are the guys that they could have some huge years out of nowhere. Like they could just evolve and then at wide receiver 1 out of nowhere. We saw it with who's the example of that Puka Nacua. I mean, that's not really a good one, but
yeah.
Some guys, like, they just jump out and they have huge years. Like Nico Collins, they added C.J. Stroud, and he was a wide receiver 1 last year. And now these people are going to look for those guys that didn't think they did it. Like players like Deontay Johnson to go to a new offense, Calvin Ridley, all those guys. And they Jigba in a new situation. Those guys can have those huge leaps.
I like the cocktails and dream pick of Jake Ferguson, too, in the middle of the draft, middle of the round, this last round. I mean, he's safe. High floor. They don't really have. I don't trust Brandon Cooks as their number 2 receiver. I think Ferguson's going to get the second most targets on that team.
Yeah, and he had a great. I know they lost in the wild card game, but he had 3 touchdowns and like 100 yards. They used him a lot when they were able to blanket CeeDee and his other receivers. They went to him and they went to him a lot, and it worked. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do that a lot more this year because they know that he's like Dalton Schultz, maybe better. I mean, he's going to get you those points.
For sure. So Cocktails and Dream has 3 running backs, 3 receivers, and a tight end after 7 rounds. I like what he's done. Rashad White, David Montgomery, Javonte Williams. So Montgomery and Williams, both guys that he just needs one of those guys to hit.
Yeah.
So if that happens, which I think is a good possibility, he's got a solid number 2 back, and then Neighbors and that other back can fight it out for the flex position, but they definitely have high upside as well. So pretty good roster composition for that team picking in the middle. I think you can see when you attack in the middle like that, I think you see more different, they don't really load up on one position like some of the other spots do towards the back end and the front end of the draft. So it's kind of tough when you pick in the middle. I think you got to kind of play it a little safer because you don't know when those runs are going to start. And you can still get those players if a run would start, when you're on the back end of the draft and you take a tight end just because you're not sure what's going to be left if you don't go with the tight end. So regardless, I like the way the Cocktails and Dream has.
Yeah, I like all 3 of these teams in the middle right here. 5, 6, 7, or is that 6, 7, 6, 7, 8?
Yeah, 6, 7, 8.
They all have great builds. I love the Chase, Kyron, Cook, Pittman, Kincaid, Kirk. I don't think that's a great build. I love Cocktails. He might be my favorite draft so far because you have White as your good RB1. And then Montgomery seems like a very safe pick. I think he's going to get you around 10 to 15 probably points on a weekly basis. He's going to get you a solid because he's going to score. And that's just a thing. The Lions score so often. It's just he's going to get you a touchdown at least a week and then maybe 50-plus rushing yards. Man, he's not going to get you to catches most likely, but he'll be solid. And then Javonte. A lot of people are high on him with, he's coming second year after the ACL. It seems like that's where running backs players finally take that bigger leap. You see the first year a little regression, and the next year after it, they're a lot better if they're fully recovered. I think Javonte has proved that he's going to do that this year.
For sure. I agree. I'm excited about him. I've come around him a lot, and to get him at that point of the draft, a high ceiling guy that has good potential, I think it's a good move on his part for sure. Now we see C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson go, a couple young QBs off the board. How many teams don't have QBs?
1,
we have
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6.
So 6 of the 12 teams don't have a QB after what? We're in the 8th round now.
Yeah.
So a lot of them kind of waiting a little bit. You can get good value though. There's definitely some good guys still out there, but Stroud goes, and then Richardson as well. I think Richardson, sometimes you see him going before Stroud.
Yeah.
He definitely is another one of those high ceiling guys, but he goes to that team, JRH 5K, drafted last, which we all think he has a pretty good build. Doesn't have a tight end yet, but a pretty good start to his team. He takes Devin Singletary. Again, I like that. I like Singletary. Maybe I'm in the minority. I know the team's terrible, but his former coach is the guy running the show there. So obviously he brought him in for a reason. He has no competition for work. He's going to catch the ball. I'm assuming they're going to be kind of a defense-oriented team with the way they're set up because they don't have a lot of weapons offensively. So I think Singletary, I know it's not exciting, but
yeah, I like the last 3 running backs that have gone for value. Zach Moss, Singletary, and Robinson. Where you can get them, they seem like they're all going to be the number ones in an offense like that. Like Zach Moss, people are low of him because of Chase Brown, but they did pay him a decent chunk of money. I feel like they're probably going to use him a lot. And he was good last year. People undervalued what he was. When Taylor was hurt, he was a great running back. He was good in fantasy. He had a huge week against Tennessee. I think he put up like 30 points or something like that. And then Brian Robinson, he was huge last year. People undervalued that. I know they added Eckler, but
was he 20th in scoring, 19th in scoring, or something like that?
Something like that. And
that offense wasn't very good last year.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be better. I know you have to worry about Jaden Daniels maybe taking some goal line work, but regardless, Robinson's going to be the goal line back when they're around there. It's not going to be Austin Eckler. I know Eckler could take some work away from him in the passing game, but Robinson catches the ball pretty well. Eckler, I feel like, is on his last legs, and I like Robinson as a number 3 back. I'll take him all day at that point.
Yeah, Eckler is probably going to get injured again, knowing how his trajectory's going. I love what Cocktails did. He did one of my favorite things. Draft Harrison, and then you go Kyler.
Oh, there you go. You're right.
You get the duo. I love those picks right there. That Arizona. We love Arizona this year.
Got the connection. They're another team could be playing from behind. That's one of the reasons I kind of like them. I kind of really taken a lot of shares of Murray lately in my draft as well. If you can get him that's a little later than he normally goes. I feel like
I personally may like him more than Stroud. If I'm looking at it. I don't think Stroud provides.
A close call.
I don't think Stroud provides you the rushing upside as much. That's what I worry about with him.
I was going to ask you here shortly to give your favorite team, but I look at this. There's so many teams that I like. I think so many of these owners have done just a really good job. Like there's a lot of good builds. It's going to be a tough league. We're going to have to revisit this one maybe throughout the season.
Yeah. I mean, I can give you my favorite right now. It's Cocktails. He took a lot of my favorite players in this draft.
I told you that guy's a top fantasy owner. He's done a great job. But then, throughout the years,
then like
the
you
team
said,
right next to him, Casino Bliss, I think that's a
great
really good team.
All these teams, I think, have turned out to be very solid. Like we've questioned things, but they've all turned out well. Like we were questioning the Garrett Cup, Kelsey was going to do a running back. You had 4 straight and got Swift, Pollard, Mostert, Moss. I think those are 4 great picks. Mostert especially, he's undervalued, and
he is undervalued. I just still think he's going to be a guy that could be getting goal line work. Miami's offense is really good. They like to rotate their backs there. He was top 5 last year, and I just think that we could be sleeping on him.
Yeah, was Pollard? I think that was a higher ADP than when he goes, right?
Pollard's ADP is I'm good YouTube watching when you
can't find it.
Need my glasses.
No.
I don't see where he is. Tony Pollard.
It's probably cut off at the end of the page.
Yeah, it probably is. It's around that 80 range.
Yeah.
That's not too much sooner.
Yeah, I think he's kind of gone up people's draft boards.
When they've seen him in the preseason, looks really good.
I think he looks better when he splits a backfield pretty evenly, like what he did with Zeke. I feel like when they split work, he was more explosive because he had more energy built up for those big explosive runs. Like last year, he's got all the work in a single game, kind of wore him down, I think, a little bit. So I think if you reduce in the world with him and Tajay, I think they can both produce to be very solid running backs, personally.
True. Tajay is explosive.
Yeah, he's explosive. He's going to catch the ball. That's
really interesting to me to see so many of these teams really going tons of receivers.
Yeah.
When you only start 2 in a flex, it just, I guess they like that safe route. Like the Casino Blitz team, I think he has a good-looking team, and I like even the receivers he's taken recently, but it worries me that he doesn't have a third back on his roster yet. Maybe he has somebody in mind.
Seems like he probably has some guys down here and he's
That's
looking at.
Guess, yeah, but his receivers are great. Christian Kirk's a guy.
Yeah.
Like even Keenan Allen around 7. I mean,
he's got Jaden Reed as his wide receiver 5.
Yeah, he's an injury waiting to happen, Keenan Allen, but when he's on the field, he got double-digit receptions a host of times last year. So
yeah,
round 7, it's his 4th receiver. Why not? But again, it kind of worries me his running back depth a little bit. He doesn't have a QB yet either.
You want to recap the last round?
Yeah, I'll recap the last round. Singletary, Brian Thomas, Rome Odunze, 2 rookies back-to-back. Marcus Brown, Brian Robinson, Kyler Murray. Marquise Brown, sorry. Kyler Murray, Jaden Reed, Jalen Warren, Tajay Spears, Jerome Ford, Austin Eckler, and Jordan Love. So I like smart move by Law Dog, by the way. So he took Jerome Ford, guy who's going to be starting first few games or maybe in half the season.
Yeah, and then took Brooks before.
Brooks. Smart. I like it. I think that was a good strategy on his part. If you're going to take somebody like that.
I also like Jerome Ford just in general because we don't know when Chubb's going to be back.
I heard now that he's going to miss a lot.
Yeah.
They don't expect him to be fully healthy until late in the year.
Yeah, like they're talking week 10, I think, or a little later than that. Is he
even gone yet?
I know he's not gone yet. And then I like this one pick on the end. We saw him go to 3 straight running backs. Then he went receivers and McBride. And then he got Jordan Love. I think that's a great spot for Love. That offense is going to keep getting better. And he does provide a little rushing upside. He had a decent rushing numbers, I think, last year. And I guess it's kind of the pair, Jacobs and Love. I guess that's a little bit of a duo. And he took Blake Corum, who I think is a good value pick at this point of leagues with all this Kyron stuff coming out. I mean, Kyron did get injured and beat up a little bit last year. If one thing was to go wrong, Blake Corum slotting into an offense is going to be good.
So I would have liked to have seen End Zone Club. I think he did well with getting Stevenson as his number 1 back. I think I'd have liked him better if you would have got Ford instead of Spears.
Yeah.
So if you get Ford and Stevenson and then maybe take, Elliott like he did on the way back, I could be getting number 1 carries in Dallas and goal line work. But I don't know. I just feel like Ford might have been the smarter play for him because I think Spears a little risky.
I think Spears, he's going to have the higher upside.
It's true, but Ford's going to be the unquestioned starter early in the year, at least in an offense that likes to run the ball.
If it's any come fantasy playoff time and he's not starting, that could kill you, though. That's my only thought with that.
Joe Burrow goes in round 9. Falls pretty late there, and that's his QB1.
His team's
for the first place.
Really helping out his team.
He's in first place. That's his team name. Bijan, Olave, Nico Collins, Sam Laporta, Aaron Jones, Zay Flowers, Chase Brown, Jalen Warren, and Joe Burrow. Not a bad team as well. Henry, we're going to get out of here shortly here. Maybe we'll go through this round, and then we'll pick our favorite team, and then we will end the stream. But again, I appreciate everybody joining us today for this live stream event, $5,000 league. Go to rtsports.com if you want to get in any leagues like this. We have high stake ones still available. There's all sorts of draft times now. This is the busiest weekend of the year for us, Labor Day weekend. We have so many drafts going on. It's crazy. So if you want to draft at any time, you can draft midnight. You can draft at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, probably. Get up if you want to draft early tomorrow, you name it. All sorts of different options if you want to do that here at RealTime Fantasy Sports. Different games, different price points, different contests. Get in one today. Again, our fantasy championship is the big one, $500,000. Just a great, great contest. I highly encourage you to check that out. All right, Henry, we just had Trey Benson go after Joe Burrow. So that is just his 3rd running back, Casino Blitz. He takes Trey Benson, a guy that could end up being the starter at some point in Arizona. I'm not so sure this year, but maybe splits work. But Connor's kind of been – it seems like he was a bit of an injury issue, but I don't think that's really been the case last couple of years.
Yeah, it hasn't. I mean, Connor's always been the guy that everyone undervalues him, and then he has a good year. It's been a consistent thing. I do think, though, the reason for bringing in Benson, I do think Connor's contract expires next year. So I think
he's 29, I believe.
Yeah, they're probably just going to let it ride out. Benson's going to get worked in there eventually and every once in a while. But I think next year would be the year for Benson. I think they just let Connor go. That Benson takes over. I don't know how much Benson's going to be impact this year.
It's true. Rico Dowdle goes now, a guy with some question marks, but some definite potential and a good offense. Who knows who's starting there in Dallas? So Dowdle and LA going the exact same round, kind of ironically. So they're both picked here. And then Brock Bowers, another tight end for the LFG team. I like the Bowers pick. I'm fine with that. It's a bench spot, and he's a guy that's going to be moved around all over the place. You saw that in the preseason, line him up as a receiver, tight end. It definitely seems like he's going to be heavily involved in that offense. So I'm totally fine with going a couple tight ends. We have 3 teams without a tight end. Is that
what? 3 teams without a tight end, 1 person with 2. I like the Bowers pick too because it provides upsides and insurance to having Pitts because we don't know what Pitts is going to do yet. And it provides insurance. We have another team goes second tight end. Njoku goes with Kittle.
I mean, you're also playing a little defense here.
I think that's what they're doing here.
In the name of the Wolfman, Rick Wolf. He likes to do that every once in a while when we were drafting Colton and the Wolfman when I was on the show with those guys, and we'd be drafting a lot. He liked to play defense every once in a while. That's what these owners are doing a little bit here, taking some of these high-priced, legit number 1 tight ends off the board. And again, Kittle's got some injury questions, so it makes sense. A little bit for, is it Runestone?
Yes, Runestone.
So he takes another tight end. So 3 teams without a tight end, and it's going to be slim pickings for them. There's definitely some guys, but Njoku, he might have been the last.
That's kind of the last of them.
The cutoff there. They're going to have to maybe go with the platoon round at this point. I don't know what you do. On one hand, you don't want to see any more teams take a second tight end. It really hurts you. But on the other hand, you hate to reach too soon for a guy before his ADP. But sometimes you got to play to the draft. So I think some of these owners without a tight end, even if they have to reach a little bit, might end up taking one. I think this last team might do it.
He's going to do it.
He's not going to pick again. Those other 2 teams are in the front of the draft.
Yeah, and he's going to have to wait a while for his next pick. And those guys are – there's a pretty high chance they're going to take one of the 2 of them at least off the board for him. He's probably going to go to one he wants. And I like this pick we just said right here for the RB3 of Chuba Hubbard because he's going to start the first 4 weeks at the minimum. And he was pretty solid last year in that offense.
Not exciting, but solid. And again, he has James Conner, a bit of an injury history.
And Joe Mixon.
That we said was kind of overrated, but I think that's a good pick too. Yeah. So as your 3rd running back, especially. So good work to him. That other team, Casino Blitz, has just 3 running backs. Everybody else has End Zone Club has 3 running backs as well. So a couple more picks here, Henry, and then we're going to pick our favorite team and then get out of here. Some of these teams won't have a complete team yet, unfortunately. But I think we got a pretty good idea of who we like and who we don't like. I think it's really up in the air. I think this is a really well-drafted league. These owners have done a great job, and they've showed that you can build a team from various different spots and do it well and build a team various different ways, I should say. Attacking receiver early, attacking running back early. They've done it, and I think a lot of them have still built a team well, using various different ways, even attacking QBs early. We kind of gave the team that took Josh Allen 2nd round a little bit of a hard time, but I think his roster build ended up being really good in the end, and he got the number 1 QB. Yeah. So he has the number 1 running back, and McCaffrey number 1 QB, and Josh Allen. So again, you can win numerous different ways. The MAF team still doesn't have a QB, and neither does Fat Frankie. Any other teams don't have a QB, Henry?
I think there's one more. I might be wrong, though. Casino Blitz.
So 3 teams don't have a QB yet.
I feel like we know JRH is might be debating with the position here, who he wants.
Yeah, it's going to be he needs a tight end. I think he needs more running back depth as well. Just 3 of them on his roster.
I goes running back tight end here.
I like Devin Singletary as his 3rd running back, though. Again, I think I'm higher on him the most. So maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I think he's going to end up having a pretty good year and post some pretty good consistent
Gus
numbers. Gus Edwards goes to him. Then we'll look at his next pick, and then we're picking our favorite teams and skedaddling. All right, let's see what he does, Henry. Think he's going to go tight end?
I think he has to.
I think he does, too.
I think we'll see MAF then go quarterback is my guess here. Because then he's going to have those 2 people. He's going to have to wait a while.
It's true.
He's probably going to take his pick of who he wants.
I agree. Let's see what happens here. Minute left. It's minute and a half. We didn't mention that. Minute and a half per pick for this draft as well. Come on, JRH. He's going to take, let's try to guess.
Let me see. Put in the middle so you can guess.
We're running out of time. He's going to pick before we figure it out. I think he's taking a tight end. Maybe we'll take TJ Hawkinson.
I was thinking about that. I'm not going to say that, though. I'm going to say, I talked about him earlier, Dalton Schultz.
There you go.
Or maybe Freiermuth.
Oh, yeah, Freiermuth's still out there.
I'm going to go with one of those two. Then the next guy's going to go with Brock Purdy. I don't know.
Brock Purdy's still out there. Yeah, there still are some good options. I think you can win with. I think you
the
can
quarterbacks in a deep position.
So deep this year.
And then you can get 208, Goff, all those guys. Even the rookies, I think Jaden Daniels and Caleb both have high upside.
He's really debating. Khalil Shakir. Wow, waited.
Didn't guess that one.
All right, Henry, let's look. Who is your favorite team?
I want to see this pick right here before I make my decision, personally.
Oh, you're not going to make it to pick until you see it.
We can't. I'm trying to zoom in here and just see it.
I was trying to zoom in here. The mouse is no longer working, unfortunately. So I will look and see if I can guess who my favorite team is at this point.
There you go.
So I will say, man, there's some good builds.
I'll make mine right now.
All right, you go ahead and you make
so
your pick.
I'm not gonna say Cocktail because I already said it earlier. He is, but I'll go with my second favorite, which is MAF. He doesn't have a quarterback
That's why
yet.
you're waiting.
Yeah, I wanted to see if I want to see what he took there.
You love Brian Thomas.
I love Brian Thomas, and he already has Wilson and Kupp, who are two very high upside receivers. Those both could finish. They could finish top 5, both of them. You never know. And then Dobbs, I think, is a great pick. And it took Kelsey, so he's an elite tight end. And then I love his running backs because they may not be the number ones, but he has all the upside imaginable in them all. Swift, Pollard, Mostert, Moss, Chandler. Mostert was, top 5 last year?
Yep.
Top 5 in scoring last year. And then everyone's undervaluing him. I still think that. He got so many touchdowns last year. He's going to get more. That offense just keeps scoring and scoring. And then I think Pollard's going to have a great role. Swift's going to have a great role. I think Moss has a good role. I think Ty Chandler, you mentioned Aaron Jones splitting work earlier. He's going to split work with him. He had a great preseason. I think he's looked good. And also another thing, Aaron Jones, very injury prone as of recent. And I think Ty Chandler could have some weeks in there where he's starting and he is that. I think that he could be good in that offense, especially if Sam Darnold, because he might dump the ball off a little bit.
I mean, I like several teams as I look at this. The End Zone Club team, I may pick him if he had a little more depth at running back. I think he's done well. I like the Casino Blitz team as well. He has a lot of my guys. He has Kincaid, Kirk, James Cook. I like Jamar Chase. Man, I think there's a lot of good teams. The MAF team, like you said, I even like the last team. He doesn't have a tight end yet, which worries me a little bit. The JRH team, but I got to go with Cocktails and Dream, just because I think he's just done a good job. Justin Jefferson, Marvin Harrison, Rashad White, Malik Neighbors, David Montgomery, Javonte Williams, Jake Ferguson, Kyler Murray, Rico Dowdle. I think he's going to load up on receivers at this point. If I had to guess, I think he's going to take a receiver here. I think he's going to take a bunch coming up, and hopefully that he can find some good depth there in case Neighbors doesn't work out. But I think he's done well despite going receiver in the middle. I love the Kyler Murray pick also. I think if Murray and Harrison come through, I think that team ends up making a run. But again, there is a lot of good.
It's a good pick right there, too.
He took Jordan Mason. Yeah, that is a good pick. Kind of hurt that Christian McCaffrey owner. You always play with fire when you draft McCaffrey. You got to figure out when to take the handcuff, because I think he's like the only handcuff I really want. Maybe Tyler Algier, but I still won't. He's not that good.
Yeah.
He's not going to produce that much, but
maybe the new guy with the Jets, Braylon Allen, just because
he's another one that's decent. I think Jordan Mason has the most potential, though. So you're always kind of playing with fire, trying to figure out when to take him in the draft. All right, Henry, that was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Again, $5,000 league, just awesome. It was great to follow along, see all these great owners. They've done a great job throughout the night of picking this. If you want to get in a draft here at RealTime Fantasy Sports, go to rtsports.com. Can you see that question up there, Henry?
I can't.
Yeah, we're too far away from our screen here to see it. It says, can you put the draft board back up? Is that what it says?
I think something like that.
We're actually getting out of here, unfortunately. I will show it to you real quick here if you want to see it before we get out of here. But there's a draft board one last time. Again, we're through about 10 rounds. It's an 18-round draft. These are the picks. These guys have done a great job. Again, if you want to get in a draft, go to rtsports.com. Click on that Money League link, or you can join a commissioner league and invite all your friends to participate. We got the best in the business when it comes to commissioner product. But again, Henry, I thank you for joining me today.
Mm-hmm.
Really been a lot of fun talking about this draft.
Yeah, no problem.
Again, $5,000. This was the high stakes draft here at RealTime Fantasy Sports. Great job to all the owners out there, and great job to everybody else out there for watching and listening to us ramble on during this stream. But it was a lot of fun.
It was.
For sure. Good luck to all you in your drafts coming up. This has been Jeff Power for RealTime Fantasy Sports.